So if you're dating right now and you don't know whether the behavior you're seeing in the guy or gal that you're dating is a deal breaker, or whether maybe this is just a case of you overthinking it, we're going to be doing something special today. We're going to be playing a game of red flag or green light where we look at scenarios of people who are in actual dating messes right now, and we say whether the person should have a red flag for this relationship or it's a green light. Go ahead today on Off the Couch. Hi, welcome to Off the Couch with Dr. Greg, where psychology meets everyday life. I'm Dr. Greg, Cason psychologist, and here with Brian Gomez, producer.
Happy Monday, you guys.
And we're also here with Noah on the board.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Noah. Today we're going to be doing something kind of special where we'll be playing red flag or green light. We have an image that I gave to you, Noah. I have all these quotes for you, Noah. Great. Yes. So the bottom line is this game is we're trying to read through actual scenarios and dating scenarios, and we're going to be talking about whether this scenario is the person gets a red flag or a green light. So what we're going to do today, Noah, we're going to have Brian read the scenario. He's going to weigh in what he thinks. Then how about you weigh in what you think, and I will break the tie, or who knows. I'll figure out what I think.
Sounds like fun.
Okay. I'm excited too because I don't know quite what's up. So let's go, Brian.
Okay, the first one is always on their phone. I just started dating this guy and everything seems great except one thing. Whenever we're together, he's constantly on his phone. He's not being sketchy about it, like hiding his screen, but he's always texting or scrolling, even during dinner. When I joked about it, he said he's just bad at being present. I like him, but I don't want to feel ignored. Is this a red flag or a green light?
Yeah, Brian, what do you think? Is this a red flag or a green light?
I've actually been on a date like this before.
Wait, and were you the person on the date, or were you the person on the phone?
No, I wasn't.
No.
I know
Okay.
I have manners, but this person did not have manners, and it was annoying me the entire freaking date. Like, I couldn't wait for it to be over. Yeah, I didn't see him ever again after that. But yeah.
Well, so it's to you, it's a red flag.
It's a red flag, and I was pissed that I even had to drive like far out for dinner.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with Brian. I think this is a pretty big red flag. It's not even that the person might be doing anything sketchy on their phone or trying to hide something from you. In my eyes, it's just being rude and not being in the moment. And like, if we're spending time together, but you're spending that time together on your phone, that's a pretty clear signal to me that you have more important things to do, and so do I.
And maybe later down the line, like 3 months in, or like when you guys are comfortable enough where you're both like, oh, yeah, like, we're just passing some time and you're both on your phone or something. But definitely not if you just started dating somebody.
Not if you just started dating something. I agree with the both of you. This is a huge red flag. And this is, we are dealing with something right now called the attention economy. And that's, everything is competing for people's attention. And basically what that person is saying in that moment, in that date with you, is my phone is winning the attention war right now over you. My phone is more important than you are. So whatever's on my phone is what gets my attention. But it tells you some other things about that person. It tells you that they're also unable to sit with ambiguity. They probably check their phone anytime there's any kind of emotional discomfort, which may be why you see them do it on the date. One thing you see is when people, like at a restaurant, there'd be two people sitting there, one gets up to go to the restroom. Often you'll see the other person pull out their phone because we've no longer developed the skill to just sit there and entertain ourselves or just sit there and tolerate being bored for a few minutes. Like somehow that's so wrong.
I mean, that's interesting you bring it up because I've been that person that you get up and go to the restroom and you're like, I'll check my phone,
Yeah.
Dang.
But yeah, try an experiment. The next time you're at a restaurant, just leave the phone in your pocket when the person gets up to go. And that it might tell you something about yourself. It's usually a good exercise to do. But basically what this person's saying is, and I could probably have you go through it again, but did they say that they just have a problem with being present? Is that what it was?
Yes, it said that the person said they're just bad at being present, which I wouldn't want to be around anybody that has that issue.
Who
honestly.
wants to be in that relationship where someone is bad at being present?
Or friendship, honestly.
Not me.
Yeah, no. I mean, because we basically have three tenses. We can go past, present, and future, right? So if then all they're doing is looking at the future or dealing with the past. But what they're really having trouble with being present is with you. That's what they're showing. Now, you could mention it to the person if there's some stakes here. Let's say you've gone out a few times and all of a sudden you're starting to notice this behavior. And maybe you're noticing this behavior because they're more comfortable with you. People can usually present a good front on a first date. So if you're seeing it on the first date, dude, that is as bad as it comes. But people can usually get their act together for a first date. But round about date 5, we start to see all the messiness come out. So if you're starting to see it on date 5, I'd mention it to the person like, I noticed you're on the phone all night. What's going on? Oh, I just have trouble with being present. I think then you start to get a very clear red flag. This person could go, I know I have a problem. I'm working on it, blah, blah, blah. And then they do work on it and they don't check their phone when you're with them. Then, okay, there's hope for the future. But if they don't work on it or you don't see improvement, you need both, then this is really a done deal.
I'm just debating, because you know how some people, we see sometimes the red flags and we're like, oh, maybe it's not that bad of a red flag,
I think for me, what's setting me off the edge is, in this example, the fact that the person who was always on his phone made an excuse instead of saying, you're right, I'm sorry, I am on my phone. He's acknowledging that he's on his phone, but then he's like, well, I'm just bad at being present. He's not saying he's going to make any change because of it.
I like what you said exactly, because it's like, yeah, if you're not even, you can acknowledge it, but if you're still making up an excuse about it, it kind of defeats the whole conversation. Yeah.
There you go.
So, red flag on that one.
Red
right?
Red flag. Should we be keeping count? That's one.
That's one red flag.
We have 6.
Okay, the next one is a little too perfect. I met someone recently.
Already
A red flag?
Already a red flag.
Okay.
We'll talk.
A little too perfect. I met someone recently, and honestly, they seem too good to be true. They agree with everything I say, always tell me exactly what I want to hear, and never seem to have a bad day. At first, it was nice, but now I'm wondering, are they really this perfect, or are they just telling me what I want to hear? Am I overthinking this, or is this a red flag?
Am I overthinking this? Well, obviously, I didn't think about it at all and said it's a problem. What do you say, Brian?
Oh, well, anybody that says that they never have a bad day or never gets upset or anything like that, I feel like that's a red flag. There is no way a human being cannot have a bad day.
Okay.
That's my take on it.
Well, I mean, the reality is we all go up and down, but some people do tend to lean more optimistic and positive. But let's keep talking. What about you, Noah?
Well, I think it depends on how far into the relationship this example is. I think if on a first, second, or even third date, this person has the appearance of being, perfect in every way, maybe they're just genuinely a really good person, and maybe your expectations, from previous experiences have lowered your expectations so much that it's almost hard to believe. But I think in a longer-term relationship, if it's setting off alarm bells that everything is so, seems so perfect with this person, to me that signals deceit, like they're hiding something from you or they're putting on a front for you.
So good point. Long-term relationship would be a super bad problem. So there is a TV show called What We Do in the Shadows. You probably haven't watched it. No, it's the vampire show.
The vampire one you love? Yes.
I do love that show. But one of the characters on this show, one of the vampires, resurrected an old wife that he had from before, and wished her to be alive, and then wished her to say yes to everything he wanted. And what happened in that relationship? He got painfully bored and didn't want to see her anymore.
So do you think we like a little bit of challenge or...
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I can make this case in a big way or a small way. But let's start with this scenario. This person just started dating some. We don't know man or woman here, do we?
No, it just says I met someone recently.
I'm curious, Noah, who represents our hetero contingency here. So Noah, do tell us, if you have a woman who is saying, oh, everything you say is fabulous. It's amazing. You're so smart. You're so amazing. Oh, my God, that's so interesting. What's going to be the effect on you?
Well, it's hard for me to say because no woman would ever say that to me. But
Yes.
in the hypothetical scenario that she did, I guess to me that would mean that I could get away with more.
Oh, wow.
To be totally honest, if she thought that like the sun shined out of my asshole every day, am I allowed to say that on the show? Then yeah, I think I'd feel like I could get away with more. And I think in a relationship you need a balance of really enjoying the other person who they are, but also you both need to keep each other kind of in check.
Very good. Interesting. And good self-disclosure there. I'll tell you, in our society, though, I think women are conditioned to play along often, especially with men and especially early on in the dating process. They're conditioned to, agree to say, oh, that's interesting, everything's great, etc., and not to push back. And in fact, when a woman pushes back on a date, the man may see it as a danger sign, like, oh, she's got her own mind. He won't say that. He'll say, something worse, like she's a bitch. So I think that women are in a tough position here because there is a conditioning that's going on, and we're seeing a strong pushback, at least with some people, that we talked about, that whole trad wife movement, traditional wives. That's, just sort of, are you somebody who will play along and say yes, yes, and do yes, whatever you want the other person to do? I think that this is all something we need to pay attention to. But I think the perfect one is often one I hear when I hear the complaint about a little too perfect. It's often the woman that's saying that because she's with a man who's suddenly agreeable, a man who suddenly likes everything, because men sometimes are a little disagreeable. So I'm being very gender specific. Maybe that's good, maybe it's bad, but I think that there are different ways of looking at this. I will tell you, I think a little too perfect. From moment one, I would worry about it being a sociopath. Moment one,
for sure.
Moment one. The other type is what we call the love bombing narcissist. The person who's going to come at you and just be like, you're the most perfect, amazing, everything's great, amazing person in the world. They're really seductive, but basically they're coming at you strong because they're going to start playing a game with you that you aren't going to be able to win. So I do worry about this behavior. Some people too, just to go back to it, some people just are kind of better than others. Who was it that was practically perfect in every way? Mary Poppins? She was practically perfect in every way. And the only one she flirted with was Bert. You guys don't know this movie, do you? No one? Okay. I'm very, very sad right now. Did you guys not have childhoods? What's going on?
Not in the 70s or 50s.
Yeah, right.
That's a Disney movie from the 50s, I believe, or 40s even.
That's a long time. We have not been on this earth.
I was
that
watching
long.
SpongeBob when I was probably...
I watched SpongeBob too.
When you were little?
No, because it didn't exist. But I still managed to get it in SpongeBob time.
Okay. So a little too perfect, do you think it would be a red flag then?
Red flag.
For sure. There's no way around that?
Red flag.
Got it. Okay.
Number 2.
Okay, so number 3, keeping it casual forever. Sorry, this one is touching home for me. I've been seeing this person for about 6 months, and things are fun, but every time we try to talk about where this is going, they dodge the conversation. They say they really like spending time with me, but don't want to put any labels on it. I don't need to rush into anything serious, but I also don't want to waste my time. Is this a red flag or a green light? I feel like sometimes we need to hear what that person is saying. And if that's not what they're looking for and what they want at the moment, then it's like us as adults, we have to have that choice that we make where it's like either you stick along with this fun ride that might not go anywhere or end up being something meaningful at the end, or you jump ship now, right? Or I mean...
So what do you think? Red flag or green light? You've been in this.
Yes, I have. And a year and a half later, it was time to jump ship. But I did enjoy every moment of it. Like, the experience of it was fun. And I did have an amazing time and everything. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. And I knew that throughout the whole thing that it was just fun. In that sense, I had to like mentally tell myself. Like,
so you did know it was casual.
Yes, but there were times that it's like, damn, everything was so amazing and perfect that it's like I would marry this person.
Well, tell me about go back to the quote.
Keeping it casual forever.
Does the person say?
I try to talk about it where this is going, and they dodge the conversation. They say they really like spending time with me, but don't want to put labels on it.
You try to talk about where this is going. Did you say where you wanted it to go?
You know what? Thinking back on it, I bent myself to hang out for this situation instead of being like, no, this is what I truly want. So I willingly made that choice.
So that's the thing I have with this person is because we're putting the responsibility on the other party. If this we didn't even ask you, Noah. What do you think? Red flag or so what do you think, Brian? Red flag or green light?
Is there like, the yellow light?
Yeah.
Because I would
We could say yellow light. It's caution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Proceed with caution,
Proceed with caution. That's cover.
I tried,
Cover the brake. Do you know what covering the brake is? It's where you hover your right foot over the brake because you might have to press on it. Cover the brake. That's what they used to say in driver's ed. What about you, Noah?
I think that in general, if you're both looking for something casual, that's fine. But I think this specific example, it was the dodging the question part that is setting off some red flags for me. Because if the person that you are interested in having a relationship with is dodging the question, refusing to have the conversation with you flat out, then again, that kind of signals deceitfulness to me. It signals that they maybe know that you want something more and they're trying to lead you on to think that, maybe one day I'll get it. And in reality, they have no intention of anything more serious than that. If they didn't and they had honesty in their heart, then they would just straight up tell you, like, no, I'm only looking for something casual. But that's not the case.
Well, what's interesting to me is the person asking this question doesn't state to the other person that what they want. So they're looking to the other person to take the lead and asking a question here, is this a red flag or a green light? Look, this is advice I give to all people dating who have an issue, who bring this issue to me. That if you don't know where this relationship is going, you have to figure out where you want it to go and say that to your partner or, person you're dating or whomever it is. You've got to say it to them and ask them if they're on board for that. Like, basically you present what you want as opposed to going, where is this relationship going? One of the weakest questions I think I've ever heard, and people ask that question a lot in relationships. Where is this going? Where's dating going? And they usually do it in kind of an aggressive way. And yet they are unwilling to say where they want it to go. So even if it's implied, where is this going? Because I want it to go somewhere. They've got to say where they want it to go. And then the other person can weigh in more definitively. The person avoided the question because they were asked a question and they didn't want to deal with the ambiguity of that, I guess. But I would give it a caution light too. But I would put it back on the person who asked the question and say, state what you want and then find out the answer. Then make your decision.
Yeah, because we all have the choice to either, stay with
that. Yeah, you can stay with it.
Run. So
you can stay or run. There you go.
Okay, so that one's a cautious one. Okay.
Yeah.
The yellow light.
Got a yellow. One. We need a green light. How about the next one?
Okay, the next one. The fast track future. I just started dating this guy, and from the first date, he was all in. He texts me constantly, calls me his soulmate, and even mentioned moving in together. After just 2 weeks, he says he's never felt this way before, and I'll admit the attention feels nice. But a part of me wonders if this is way too fast. Is this a red flag or a green light?
Oh gosh.
Even with amazing guys that I've met, that is like magic, I don't think I would ever go this far and want to move in with somebody after 2 weeks or constantly. Yeah, it's a little too fast for me. So I would do a red flag on this one.
Red flag.
What about you, Noah?
Yeah, 2 weeks is crazy fast to be calling somebody your soulmate and asking to move in with them. But I think it's a little too hard to tell right now because they haven't had the conversation. I think the reaction to the conversation is going to be very telling as to whether this is a red flag or a green flag. Because if the person who's not as interested in moving in after 2 weeks talks to them, is like, hey, this is a little too fast for me, you know, maybe we give it some time. If their partner has a strong negative reaction to that, like, no, oh my God, I'm in love with you and yada, 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 all this, big red flag. But if they're able to handle it maturely, then that could be a pretty green flag. So for me, this is a yellow.
A yellow? Okay.
A yellow. So we got yellows going around. I have to, and you say red or red?
I say red.
Oh, you say red. You say
because
yellow.
I've been in love before, and I've never even wanted to move in with it.
I am not giving this a green, I will say, but I think this is kind of a mixed bag. So this person, let me go back through this in where was this again? This person, after 2 weeks wanted to move in. That moving in is, to me, the red flag right there. The moving in makes me wonder, why does this person want to move in after 2 weeks? I mean, let's face it, when you date someone and you're really into them, you kind of like just spend every night together, but you still have your own place. Mm-hmm. Moving in together is a whole different thing, and it's a commitment, and it means that you aren't going back. So I think it's, every smart person who's dated knows that, you know, this feeling may not last. There is a stage when you first fall for someone. It's called limerence. And limerence is really that drug high that you feel when you date somebody. And that drug high can be very brief, like 2 months or, you know, or it can last up to a year, but I don't think it lasts much more than that. And that's why a lot of people that they're like, I fell in love and things were so perfect for such a long time, and then all of a sudden real life set in, and now we're going to break up. That's because the reality is, when you meet somebody and there is that spark, your brain is tricked into going to this limerence stage where the sexual attraction takes over, where everything they say is great, and every red flag that you see just becomes a like, oh, they won't do that. That won't happen. It's okay. And you just push them all aside and continue going. So, I do think that this person could have a discussion with Mr. or Miss 2 weeks. Did we say what gender this is, or we didn't?
It just says I started dating a guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess that
the guy is the
yeah. Okay. Well, this the guy in this example is wanting to move in after 2 weeks. I mean, part of me thinks, oh, is this person homeless, or is there some kind of financial instability, or is there something? Why does this person want to move so quickly? That they think someone's their soulmate after 2 weeks, I'm sorry, but a lot of successful relationships do have that experience right in the very beginning, where they feel super connected to the other person. So I wouldn't be as thrown by that as by the action of wanting to move in. Isn't that wild? I would be very concerned about that. So I would say the fact they want to move in would throw up every red flag for me for this, where before, if they didn't want to move in and they just was like, I think this is great, I really want to date you, and even after 2 weeks they only want to date that person, great. Like, that happens. People do fall that fast sometimes. So I would say that's okay. It's everything else.
It's just the moving in part is the red flag.
Yeah, really. Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like you don't even know how somebody truly is within, like, even if you spent every day for 2 weeks together, you still wouldn't know how somebody behaves.
You don't
in their
know
own
what they're.
space.
You don't know what they're like when they're sick. You don't know what they're like when things get messy. You don't know what they're like with their mother, or with this or that. You don't know how they are with their friends, how things are going at work. Right now you're seeing everything through a haze. Everything's amazing in this relationship. So that's okay to be in. That's a really wonderful, seductive, amazing thing to be. But that's not real life. It's just what helps bond people together in the beginning so that then they can start doing the work. But, and so it's a lovely state to be in. It's like taking a drug. But like taking drugs, you don't want to keep taking them over time. And if you were just going from relationship to duplicate that limerence feeling, and that's the kind of drug addict you are, then that leads to a very unproductive life. And if you're the type of person who blames their relationship because they stayed in one that no longer has that limerence experience, that's also going to lead to a very bad relationship. You actually need to be together and sort of move in those stages together. And that's what most people do in relationship. They move into those stages together. After the limerence comes a stage where you're just kind of figuring out your life together. Like, I have to focus on work. I have to focus on this. You're trying to get your lives aligned. And then as things become bigger and they're more committed, then you start really doing a lot of other things that can create more compatibility and more of a collaborate relationship, and things get better and better within the relationship. But but if we expect things to be like the beginning, then we're doomed.
Dang. Sounds like a lot of work.
Relationships are a lot of work, but they're a lot of payoff too.
True. Okay, the next one. Let's see if we got a green flag.
I have a bad feeling because people, when they feel a green light, I don't think they are concerned about it. They don't write in, do they? They wouldn't do that.
Like, go for it? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, because when they're saying, this relationship's great, except for the Mr. Perfect one.
When it's healthy, people question it, and they're like, what's wrong? What's going on?
Well, then maybe they've only
dated red flags.
Only in the past, so who knows.
Okay, the next one, the mysterious schedule. I've been dating someone for about a month, and things are going well when we actually see each other. They never want to make plans more than a day in advance, and sometimes they cancel last minute. When we do hang out, they're great, but I can't shake the feeling that I might just be a convenience. Should I see this as a red flag, or is it just their personality? I'm big on my schedule, and I hate being thrown off my schedule or anything like that. So for me, this is a red flag. I cannot do, I don't know. If we're not planning things together out in advance, I don't want to be the last minute or feel like I'm the backup or something, So for me, it's the red flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a red flag. How about you, sir?
This is a tricky one.
Yeah.
Because, my schedule is a big deal to me too. But, this person in the example, we don't know what they do for work. We don't know why their schedule is so hectic. If it feels, I think in cases like this, you just got to go on intuition. If it feels like they're just using you as a convenience, you're probably right. I like to listen to my gut sometimes. I don't think just based on the facts it's necessarily a red flag, but I think that the person who wrote this has that gut feeling that it might be that they're just being used as a convenience thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very telling.
So, good. You're a red flag too. And Brian, what's the final sentence again? I think that's where I was like, there you go.
Let's see.
Should I see this as a
red flag?
As a what? I can't read it.
As a red flag, or is it just their personality?
It is both. So, let me say why it's a red flag. Number one, remember, let's back up to what I was just talking about with limerence, which is the first stage of really falling for somebody. When you really fall for somebody, you don't want to do anything else except see that person. That's kind of what the beginning is like. So people aren't going to cancel on you last minute unless something is interfering. if that something interferes, you better damn well know what that thing is, and it better make a lot of sense. But if it's a lot of random things, then I think you got a good read that this either the person's being manipulative, or they flat out lying, or they just have no priorities whatsoever in their life. But that includes you. You're not a priority. If they say, "Oh, I got to take my dog," and then then the next time is like, "Oh, I had to stay late," and you're like, "Okay, those are both plausible." But then they start piling up. I think you got to take the hint. But I do think it's also personality. I think one thing I don't know how immutable this thing is in my personality, but I know that I had to train, because I had to train myself, but I had to train myself to keep appointments. Like I had to literally train myself to go, okay, if I am committing to doing this, I have to do it. And I had to learn that in high school. I had to learn it with the jobs I had. I learned it in student council and deadlines. I was the editor-in-chief of the yearbook. I mean, I had to do performances. I had always to meet deadlines and always to show up on things. When you run your life like that, it's not something you do naturally per se, or it wasn't for me. It's something I had to really orient myself to do. And I still have a life based on that. I think that that's actually helped me quite a bit, because you can get a lot done when you're serious about your schedule. Plus, people know they can rely on you. One thing we know about this person is they've never made any changes in that direction. They're not reliable. And who wants to be in a relationship with someone who's not reliable? If you say, "Hey, can you come pick me up?" I'll never forget my poor mother. She did, this was not something she meant to do, but I went to Yosemite with my class, with my 7th grade class. And I went 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but I think this was in 7th grade this happened. I went with my 7th grade class, and, we were there for let's say 5-6 days. I can't remember. We go on a bus, it's a whole, we spend the nights in tents and then walk around the park. It's a big deal. Anyway, I was supposed to be back at this particular time, on this particular day, let's say Friday at 5:00. Well, I got back. They drop us off at the school, and then the parents have to pick you up from the school. The school that I went to, I was bused 45 minutes. I was nowhere close to home. I couldn't walk home. And I had my sleeping bag and a suitcase, So I was dropped off, and I remember sitting there as every other kid's parents picked them up. And mine wasn't there. And I just sat there, and I had to drag my sleeping bag and my suitcase, which were so heavy to me. I was just a kid, I guess. And I dragged them, and nothing had wheels back then. Just to let you guys know, there wasn't these wheeling suitcases.
This was before the wheel was invented.
This is before the wheel, thank you. But this was the reality. And so I'm dragging this thing with me, and I drag it to McDonald's. Now, the McDonald's was probably about, I don't know, a quarter of a mile away. So I drag it to the McDonald's, and I had to beg the person behind the counter, "Can I use your phone? Can I? And then they brought the manager over, and I had to make a case. I want to call my mom. And they scrambled around, and then they let me use the phone to call my mom. And my poor mother, she's like, "I thought it was tomorrow night." So, I mean, I don't blame her. It was just a genuine mistake, but it really was, it was kind of, it was a jarring experience when you're that age, you're just a kid. And, so that kind of thing, that reliability, that I understood, because otherwise my mother was very reliable. But if this person is doing it all the time, you don't know what's what. And bottom line is, you just never can trust that person. And how is that ever going to change? They have to physically make it want to change, and they have to do it from the very beginning.
I also think a lot of people, when they are dating or out looking to date, aren't really too sure of what they're looking for or what they want specifically from a partner. I feel like if you know what you want, these red flags or questioning if it's a red flag or not wouldn't really be such a big thing, right?
Yeah, but we can have the checklist about all the things that we want in someone, then we meet the right person and we throw that checklist out. I mean, it's like the checklist to me is just unusable. And if people try to date from a checklist, they'll meet someone who checks every box, but then it'll be Mr. Perfect, The reality is we do date people who are like, it's as if we're a lock and they're a key, and somehow it unlocks something together. So it's as if you just need that perfect combination. And luckily, there are tons of people out there who can do that. Like, we're not a unique key. We can be unlocked by many people. That's good news. But it doesn't mean everyone can do that to us. It only means certain people can do that to us. And when you meet that person, then you tend to, like I said, you go into limerence and, you're off to the races.
Okay. I think that's helpful advice. The last one. So the generous...
Did Noah weigh in? He did.
Yes.
Okay.
The generous but guarded date. I've gone on a few dates with someone who is incredibly sweet and generous, pays for everything, always plans fun outings, and makes me feel special. But whenever I ask anything personal, like about past relationships or family, they change the subject or give vague answers. I don't want to pry, but I also don't want to ignore something important. Red flag or green light?
Well, what do you think?
I feel like throughout the years, I've opened up more, like throughout dating, because I used to be really guarded about my like family and upbringing and everything. I've changed that a bit, which I feel like has been kind of nice for myself. But sometimes people just, their past isn't as like, beautiful and rainbows like everybody else's is. So I can see why this would be like, you would want to approach it with caution.
Tough.
Yeah.
What about you, Noah?
I might just be saying this because this is the last example and we haven't had a green light yet, but I'm actually going to give this one a green light. I think it sounds like the dates have been great so far. It sounds like there's nothing wrong with this person, especially not compared to some of the previous examples. And I think at the beginning it says that, the person writing it has only gone on a few dates with this person.
Yeah.
So maybe, this individual just likes to take things slowly, and that can be a sign of maturity, and doesn't want to open up quite yet, or doesn't feel comfortable opening up quite yet. And there's nothing wrong with that. Depending on the circumstances of their background, that might be a conversation for later on in the relationship. But I think everything else seems like it's going well. So green light.
So green light?
Yeah. I would agree with the green light because, some people, like I said, it's just a sensitive topic that, you also don't want to trauma dump with, or trauma bond with somebody on the first few dates,
This shows your age.
What do you mean?
Those terms. Trauma dump and trauma bond. We just had trauma that we all lived, and that was just how life was back then.
Got it.
It was just life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, though. I agree with both of you. I think this is a green light. Maybe take it slow, like the person's taking it. But the reality is, this person's being generous. Can you go back and read the person? I think I was kind of impressed at first. Oh, yeah. I've gone on a few dates with someone who's incredibly sweet and generous and pays for everything. Now, that can be seductive, but if the person is just, that's how they take control, because I can tell you about something about this person we already know. There's a lot of anxiety on their side. So this is how they compensate for whatever they're hiding. Like that they take control, they plan fun outings, they make the other person feel special. Now, as long as we're not doing some kind of behavior where we're just dumping on the other person, just going after them, saying how great they are. Oh my God, you're the most amazing thing. But instead that, I think I think, I want to take you to this great restaurant. I want to show you this thing. That to me is beautiful. And can you put the quote up again? I want to just keep reading it. But whenever I ask anything personal, like past relationships or family, they change the subject or give vague answers. Now, this person could be obviously hiding something, but they could also be so worried and so ashamed of something in the past that they're afraid if they tell you that you're going to run away. It already sounds like this person is dealing with a great deal of insecurity. And this is how they take control. That they deal with their anxiety over their insecurity by making the other person feel special. And I'm sorry, that's a pretty good, what we call a compensatory strategy. That strategy will serve you when you make other people feel special. But the reality is they're hiding something, and you have to develop some kind of trust with this other person so that they feel trust with you, that you have a trusting relationship, and so that they can eventually start telling you things about what's going on. And that may not happen right away. This may be a much slower move. But one thing I would advise this person do is say, you know what, can we get together on Saturday, let's say, and I'm going to plan the day. And then let's say that person has money and you don't, you could plan a picnic. Or you could plan, I just want to take you to the beach. I want to take you on this thing. I want to show you this special spot I love. And just do something kind of special like that. And just say, just wear casual shoes and tennis shoes or whatever. I want to take you out this time. And I think that would go a long way, especially in helping to start to establish trust with that other person. But in the past, way before, in the golden oldie days of my college career, I dated somebody who was in the mafia. Or his father was.
Oh, that's cool.
No, it wasn't.
It
wasn't. Let me tell you. And that's eventually was part of the problem. But at first, I didn't know what was going on, because there were always people around, and very secretive, and there were all this stuff. And I'm like, what? I feel like I'm in some kind of netherworld. What just happened? I walked into the Twilight Zone. Turned out that's what was going on. But that was a deal breaker for me. That wasn't a world I was willing to go into. So.
And I could see why he was being kind of mysterious about that.
I do too. I didn't blame him.
Yeah.
Really. I didn't blame him. But it wasn't one I wanted to go into. And I think they need to develop a trust with me, because they didn't want me, ratting or whatever. I don't know what it is. The whole thing was weird.
But interesting.
Yeah. I think I was 20, 21. Yeah, I'm pretty young. 21 maybe. Very young.
Nice. Okay, so that was the last one.
Okay, so that's the last? But what?
I'm just wondering if you have any green light ideas or tips for
I think
people dating.
I think the reality is when we meet someone, and we should assume a green light until we get the yellow or the red flag, that you just people are awkward, they're strange, they're clunky, they say the wrong thing, they do the wrong thing, and you know what, you should welcome that with open arms, because we're all just human beings and we all make mistakes. And I've always said, we don't fall in love with the perfections of the other person, we fall in love with their flaws. And often those flaws are things that we want to help or correct or something like that. And that may be the futile mission that you're on that's not really helpful. But we can make a whole case for this. But the bottom line is you meet people who fit your lock, and they unlock something inside of you. The key with those relationships is to be able to recognize what's going on, to be able to work within that person, to accept who they are while working to change you, not the other way around. We're cool with who we are and we're just trying to change the other person. So you accept who they are and you change you. And if you don't like who you are with this person, then that isn't a good relationship for you to be in. But a lot of times we get caught in behavior patterns that actually keep us from getting what we want. And that is really important for us to discover as human beings, what we do to get in our own way. And one thing, one of them came up, I think only one, where the person's behavior I had a real issue with, and that was the person saying, where are we going in this relationship? That's someone who isn't doesn't seem to have agency in their life, or is not willing to take responsibility there. They actually have to be willing to say, look, I really like you. I want to date you, or I want to, those kinds of relationship questions are actually really helpful. So in general, we want to look at our own behavior that's keeping us from getting what we want. We want to improve ourselves, and we want to learn to accept other people for who they are, and then realize, is this a good relationship for us to be in? And there is no perfect relationship. None. Zero. There are relationships that are better than others, sometimes a lot better. But until the perfect relationship is invented, well, I'd be afraid of that person. I would say there's no need to be in a relationship with somebody if it's going to be perfect, because I feel like our relationships are to work out issues that we have, and that it helps us to grow closer to other human beings, not just our partner, not just our children, but to other human beings as well. We become more compassionate, more open, more alive, and we have better lives, and we're happier when we do these things. So I feel like if we can get past this initial, then we start working on the real meat of the situation.
I like that. That's great advice.
I just noticed the time. I'm surprised we talked about it this long. Thank you, Noah, for playing Red Flag or Green Light.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
And thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. Anytime.
This is Dr. Greg Cason with Off the Couch. Remember to like, subscribe, to give us 5 stars. Go to the YouTube page. Let's upload the questions on the YouTube page for today. That way people can actually see what they are. So go to youtube.com/Dr. Greg. Also look for us on podcasts, on the socials. I'm at Ask Dr. Greg. Until next time, what do we say? Be present.
No.
No.
Oh my God, I don't know.
You seriously don't know our sign out? Okay.
I've got like 5 different things running through my brain right now.
What is it?
The time, what I got to do after this.
Oh. Well, we want to be present, be kind. What else?
I don't know, Greg.
Well, why don't we just leave it there?
Be present and be kind. There.
Those are 2 good advice for dating.